This video will look at how crows show indication of causal understanding, analogical reasoning, and meta-tool use. We will look at prominent researchers including Alex Taylor, Russell Gray, and Ed Wasserman, who all attempt to prove their theories in the form of different experiments. First off, Taylor, Gray, and their colleagues have modified Aesop's fable paradigm, an alternative test of causal cognition. This test is used because it requires a unique form of tool use, stone dropping into water-filled tubes, which is not seen in the wild and thus allows cross-species comparisons of causal cognition. In the experiment's simplest form, subjects are presented with a water-filled tube that contains an out-of-reach floating food reward. To solve this problem, subjects must drop objects into the tube to raise the water level, thus bringing the food within reach. It is known that crows can discriminate between functional and non-functional substrates such as water or sand, and objects such as sinking or floating when presented with the choices. Because this behavior is not natural to crows, like using sticks to retrieve food, it could be said that crows could often starve or dehydrate if not previously trained to use the pebbles in such a manner. Therefore, some training is given prior to experimentation. The vital question of the following modified Aesop's experiments is how the 8 crow subjects reacted to further variables. The first being sand versus water in a tube. The majority of the subjects passed this test. The next was sinking versus floating and solid versus hollow objects. Moving forward, they used wide and narrow tubes with same water level and unequal water levels to test further. Later, they moved to more problem solving using covered U-tube and uncovered U-tube. Overall, crows did not show causality, but instead show a generalist and learning behavior which comes from trial and error, much like other human and non-human subjects. Therefore, Aesop's modified experiments do not necessarily bring us any closer to the answer.
In previous experiments, crows were trained to identify patterns between shapes, numbers, and colors. Expanding on this experiment, Ed Wasserman of Moscow State University studied to see if crows exhibit analogical thinking. To test his theory, Wasserman and his colleagues placed 3 cups on a flat surface, as seen in this video. The center cup contains either letters, numbers, or shapes. So example would be AA, CD, circle circle, or triangle square. The crows were tested to see if they could identify visual items as same pattern sets or different pattern sets. Using logic, the crows were expected to match the pattern sets. The same pattern set using letters would be correct if the crow chose AA with BB. The different pattern set using letters would be correct if the crow chooses CD with EF. For the purpose of this project, we recreated this experiment, but instead of using a crow as our subject, we used a 6-year-old.
Okay.
She was given no audio cues during our experiment. Under the correct cup, we placed a peanut butter cup. Under the wrong cup, we placed a piece of paper that said detention to help her understand that it was the wrong cup. Using both letters and number patterns on the cups, our subject was only correct 2 of the 12 times. When crows performed this test, they were able to identify patterns correctly on their first try and every try. This evidence convinces us that crows can perform analogical reasoning.
Joanne Winpenny from the University of Oxford researched New Caledonian crows and their ability to get food using tools. The experiment required the crows to correctly identify the sequence of 3 sticks needed to extract the food. The short stick was used to grab the medium stick, which in turn was used to grab the longer stick, which finally allowed the birds to get the food. 4 of 7 were able to correctly choose the proper sequence on a regular basis. As you can see in the video, the test subject Betty does not try to get the food with the smaller twig. She keeps using twigs till she gets the correct length needed, then goes to the food tube. Through this experiment, scientists concluded that while crows did have some error attempting to get the food from the tube, most were able to accurately determine the depth of food in the tube and the tool required to obtain it. Dr. Taylor furthered his previous experiments on crows by constructing puzzles that must be solved in a consecutive order. Taylor recognized that crows are able to make the right tools by determining the length, diameter, and composition needed. They could bend materials to make hooks and knew when something was too hazardous to grab with their beaks. Taylor concluded that when tools are required, rooks and New Caledonian crows actually possess greater abilities than chimpanzees. Taylor and Gray believe that crows do not necessarily have a plan in place when beginning a task. However, New Caledonian crows actually have larger brain to body size than any other bird species. Due to their brain evolution, a crow's ability to problem solve can be directly compared to the cognitive abilities of non-human primates such as chimpanzees. Lastly, Taylor states, while the work to date establishes corvids as one of the most intelligent group of animals on the planet, the real scientific potential of corvidae has yet to be realized.